What's going on, everyone? How's it going? My name's Justin Dow. As always, thanks for watching my channel. Welcome back. Today we're back with another video of Money Talk. We're going to talk more about the 401k a little bit. I'm going to tell you why I think it's important for you to invest 10%. I'm going to tell you at what income level you probably don't want to invest into any kind of 401k and why a savings account might be more feasible for you. So let's go ahead and dive right on into it. So if you guys remember the last conversation we had, I kind of briefly touched on why it was important to invest in a 401k, some investment strategies as far as like you can invest in a high yield savings account or you can invest in the stock market. Today we're going to focus more specifically on the 401k and at what income level should you really be investing at. That just solely depends on your living situation, in my opinion. If you still live at home with mom and dad, I see no reason why you couldn't invest at least 10% into a possible matched 401k plan or at least 8% in an unmatched 401k plan. Really depends on how much you're getting paid, but let's just take $10 per hour for a minute because that seems to be a pretty good minimum wage factor when you factor in all 50 states. I think around the $10 mark is probably pretty much the norm. Putting 10% of that $10 an hour to the side if you have to pay for your own cost of living, examples to include rent, utilities, emergency car repairs, maybe you have a AAA card, your cell phone bill, maybe you have a few vices in mind, whether it's to have a few drinks going into the weekend or going out with a girlfriend once or twice a month for a date. Whatever the case may be, you have certain vices that you also have to add into your regular bills and spending. And then let's say you're an automotive mechanic like myself or technician, or however you want to refer to yourself as, and you have to invest a portion of that into your future as far as tools, right? Because tools help you make money. You're already actually investing if you didn't already know this. If you're a mechanic or an automotive technician, you're already investing without even knowing it. And what I mean by that is that you are buying a tool to make your job a little bit faster so you could potentially make your hours and get the commission if you're in the hybrid system, or you're on a flat rate scale, which that tool will help you to make more hours so long as it does make you faster. And that can be beneficial. And over time, the tool will eventually pay itself off, right? Or at least that's the hope. Unless you get into credit debt and you have to pay the man X amount percent on top of whatever you owe him, which is for another conversation. But be it that it may, you purchase a tool to make your job faster so that way it can make you more money. Eventually it's paid off and it continues to make you money at that rate of speed, which is then increasing your productivity, which is then making you more money, right? So you're already investing without even thinking about it. So why not start thinking more about the idea of having a 401k? Well, if you're at the $10 an hour mark, that's probably not going to be feasible if you're paying for your own living expenses. If you still live at home and someone's willing to price match you, that makes sense because you're not having to cover utilities, rent, or anything like that, unless your parent wants you to try to contribute in order to show you some kind of means of responsibility, in which case, yeah, it's going to be very minimal. They might charge you $200 or $400 to continue staying there into your elder years. Hopefully you're not there into your 30s, and no knock against those that had to move back in with mom and pop in their 30s. I had to move back in with my mother temporarily in my late 20s after my divorce, so believe me, I understand, but I was there very temporarily. I made sure I was in and out within a 3 to 4 month window, just long enough to stack up enough money to make my transition elsewhere. But it might not be feasible for you at $10 an hour. So when should you start thinking about a 401k if you're paying for your own living costs and making $10 an hour? I would say as you get closer to your $20 mark, if you're making between $18 and $20, that's when you should really start focusing on whether or not you should invest in the 401k and if there's price matching. You might even be able to do it at the $15 an hour depending on what your total expenses are. If your car's paid off but you're only paying rent and then utilities and maybe a cell phone bill and that's pretty much it and you live a minimalist lifestyle, then of course you could probably afford to throw 5% or 4% at a 401k and starting off small. Remember, it doesn't matter how much you put aside and save so long as you're actually doing it. So in that regards, you could still do a portion. But let's use this 10% rule for a minute, and I'm going to show you my little portfolio try to give you a better example of how much I've been investing over the last 8 months and how much it's grown with the price matching up to a certain percent from my current employer. Okay, so since March, the beginning of March is when I started actually contributing to the 401k. I contribute 8%. My boss price matches 4% of the 8%. That is the maximum yield. So essentially, I'm basically saving 12% over the course of month in and month out, but only 8% is actually removed from my check, which is about $105.80, okay? So far, my total balance is $4,084.91. My vested amount, or the amount that I currently have put in, is $2,841.64 with a performance rate, a yield rate of 13.70% over the course of the last 8 months. Now, my employer price match, again, the 4% that he contributes, is $1,243.27. So in an 8-month window, I have made about $1,250 of more money that I didn't have to invest, right? So $1,250, that's a pretty good chunk of change in an 8-month window that I didn't personally have to invest, that is for me towards retirement. And we're only at the 8-month mark, so I'd love to see where this goes, keeping everything the exact same at the 8% rule and him price matching 4% at the year's end. Then we'll come back, revise, and then I'll decide if I want to add more to it. But currently right now, this is where it stands, gentlemen, ladies, is that I have about $2,850 invested to $1,250 that has been matched. That's a pretty good chunk of return, leaving me with the $4,084.91 and a 13.70 yield rate. Whoa, right? So you can see how this stacks up and it compounds itself over time. Let's take a look at total shares. Now I'm in the VGIAX, or the Vanguard Growth Income Admiral Fund, which tracks the S&P 500. So I'm not investing huge amounts of money in one particular company and then taking those huge volatile swings. I'm actually investing into a mutual fund, which is pretty much an index fund, except for they have a charge that they charge you every year to go through them specifically, but because of their return rate, the fee actually underweighs the outcome. Like they perform so well, the fee is minimal. We're going to talk about this for a second, so let's go ahead and flip on over. All right, so in 2010, they had almost a 15% increase. In 2011, 2.4, but they have been up and up and up, for the exception of 2018, where they were negative 4.71%. So between 2010 to 2019, they've been averaging about 14.5%, really, or 13.5% here as far as it's concerned. But let's go ahead and take it a step farther. If you look down here, you'll see it has 1 year, 5 year, 10 year. You'll see that they usually do their best within the first 12 months. And then of course, it kind of slides off a little bit for 5 years and then 10 years. Okay, that doesn't mean that you should go ahead and switch after 12 months of it. Just put it in there, pick one fund, leave it, forget it, and let it compound itself over time. So now let's go ahead and talk about compounding over time. So right now, with my vested amount that I currently have in there, plus the price match, this index fund comes in at $92.91. Seems pretty steep, but I have 43.9666, etc. shares of this particular fund. Again, it's not going to show you the downs or the ups. It's just going to show you where you currently are at, how many shares you have. And each and every single time that you put money in, like if I'm putting in, what was it? $105.80 per week. What it's doing is it's buying one share plus a fractional share. Every single week, week in and week out, it just adds one and one fractional of a share. And over time, it keeps stacking back up. Let's go over to fees real quick. Okay, so their fee, their management fee is 0.32%. And that's for the investor shares. So if you were to buy an actual share as an investor, that is what the percentage is. But in the Admiral shares, so if you're in the 401k plan for them, you actually only pay 0.22%. basically 20 bucks a year if you have less than $10,000, which obviously we have less than $10,000. So we're not getting hit with high fees. And even at that case, 20 bucks a year with the amount of gain that they get at 13.5%, you're not going to miss that, believe me. Okay, so how does it compound itself over time? Well, you can see that it's actually picking up shares as you're doing it, and then it just continues to grow and grow and grow. I'm sure there's some kind of formula that Vanguard goes by, and if they actually pay any kind of a dividend, that it gets reintroduced as a DRIP account or a dividend reinvestment account back into your shares. And then over the course of that year, each and every single quarter, if there is a dividend that is being shared from the company, then you'll get a little fractional share for each and every single share that you currently own. But this just goes to show you that you actually do have individual shares as far as your 401k is concerned that are slowly stacking up over time. Do you have to stick with one exact fund like I have, where I've put 100% of my future retirement and livelihood? No. You can diversify. You can switch it up. If you like the portfolio that they have, you can keep that one. If you'd like to spread it across a few different portfolios, you can. But I urge and encourage each and every single one of you to go down to what's called a prospectus. And in this prospectus, they're going to actually show you how well they do year 1, year 5, year 10. So depending on how long you're planning on keeping your money invested into that particular fund, year in and year out for however many years you want to, is the kind of return that you're going to see. You need to look at a prospectus because that prospectus is going to tell you whether the company or that fund is doing well year in and year out or is not doing well year in and year out. You saw that over the course of basically 10 years, they've had one bad year, and it was only negative 4%. Buying individual equities, especially during COVID, I can tell you I've been down about 14% as far as my individual equity account is concerned from all the different types of companies that I own within my investment portfolio. That's a lot, right? And only since the election time has it actually turned around to where I'm either up or down 1 or 2%, which is not bad, but it hasn't been quite a year either. I actually didn't start investing into this portfolio until March actually happened. March really was the whole take all, be all. It really forced me into a power saving mode. I used credit to leverage myself as far as building a savings, and then I powered my way through that savings by adding the 401k to make sure that I had money being set aside for future as well. So I had multiple options. I made sure I had an index fund that was tracking the S&P 500 that was doing at least almost 14% year in and year out. I had my individual bias stocks that I decided to pick out, or personal equities that I picked out that did not do so well, that have slowly came back as a result of the election. My biggest takeaway is that whether it's a savings account, a 401k, or an investment account, make sure you're putting some money aside. Again, it doesn't matter how much you put aside so long as you are putting it aside. But I will tell you that yes, I completely understand there is an age, there is an income, and it depends on who you're employed by. Because some employers will not offer you a 401k, and when they don't offer you a 401k, that's when you start looking at high yield savings. That's when you start thinking about the potential of buying index fund shares through an investment account, which is similar in nature to the 401k, only you physically have to go in and do it yourself. And yes, there is a minimal startup fee. Most investment companies want to make sure that you deposit at least $500 within the first 30 or 90 days of opening the account. Some don't require you to put anything in there, okay? If your employer is price matching you up to a certain percent, put in the maximum percentage that they are willing to match you up to, because then you'll have returns like I've seen over the course of the last 8 months. That's all I got for this video from Money Talk, guys. Look, I hope you enjoyed today's content. If you did, smash the thumbs up button. If you didn't, smash the thumbs down. Share if you want to share. But it is very important for each and every single person out there, not just mechanics and technicians, but anyone that's just graduated high school, that's just getting ready to step into the real world, to understand that yes, you will need some form of savings. You will need some form of investment over time, so that way when you're older and you can't move, or something happens, or whatever, you are prepared for it, or at least your family's going to be prepared for it because you left them a little something. It also is kind of a good feeling to turn around and look back and go, wow, I was able to do that in this time frame. It's such a good feeling to see how much that you've been able to save in a short period of time just by using a simple strategy as have somebody take it out, and then you never have to look at it or see it. If you're not physically seeing it in your account and somebody else is taking it out and putting it in that fund for you, you don't have it to spend, right? And that's a great way to start investing and saving, because if you don't see it and you don't have it, you can't spend it. I know a lot of guys out there that have savings accounts, they put money in there in the beginning, and because they see it and they run into a oops, oh crap, and I'll put it back later, they end up pulling it out. How about having a fund that charges you so much to take it out that it's just not worth it, right? We can figure out how to make it to the next payday. That's my 2 cents worth. Thanks as always for watching my channel. Cheers to those of you that have your beers. I hope you enjoyed today's video of Money Talk. We'll see you guys next time. Doses.